What's up, guys? Welcome back to Supreme Micah. Overall, what I would like to talk about in this upload is stretching. What are the benefits of stretching? Why should you stretch before or after a workout? Overall, you want your muscles flexible. So when you stretch, it becomes less tense, your muscles. So that allows for better motion, especially when you're performing exercises or overall performing a great workout. Now, I would like to get into the different type of stretching, which is really important. One type of stretching is active stretching, followed by dynamic, and then static. Active stretching is usually performed with the opposite muscle group, usually known as the antagonist. Active stretching can be done with no type of external force, and usually with active stretching, you want to hold this position for a few seconds. Now let's talk about static stretching. Static stretching usually involves being able to stretch a specific muscle group to its full range of motion. This form of stretching is usually best performed after a workout. Some things to remember when you are doing static stretching is that you do not want to do this before a workout. When you do this after workouts, it does help to loosen the muscle. Now let's get into dynamic stretching. In regards to dynamic stretching, it's usually something that you're going to use in regards to whatever you're about to perform, such as an exercise or bodily motion. So if you were about to squat, dynamic stretching would be part of whatever it is that you are going to do in that motion, that plane of motion. So that's something that you would want to think about. How can you incorporate dynamic stretching prior to your workout? And this is great because what happens is it does get you ready for your exercise. Dynamic stretching is actually what I do prior to squatting. And the reasoning why is because usually if I don't squat, let's say for 2 weeks, or if I don't even squat in between maybe a week, sometimes when I go and try to perform that exercise without stretching at all, it's a lot more difficult to perform that range of motion only because I didn't do any type of stretching beforehand. It really allows my muscles to be able to loosen up a lot more. And if you are lifting heavy, it's only going to help for you to be able to actually do that. Now, I know that some people who are going to the gym, sometimes they don't stretch. So I want to give them this advice, whoever is listening to this, just make sure that you can actually achieve a lot greater form and performance to be able to perform whatever exercise you're doing, only if you stretch prior. So the next topic that I'd like to speak about is, can stretching prevent injury? Studies contradict themselves. Some studies suggest that when you stretch, it has no impact on preventing injuries, and others suggest that when you stretch, it does. So one thing that I want to talk about is that let's say someone believes that stretching doesn't do anything, that it doesn't prevent injury. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't stretch. Stretching really is beneficial to you, and that is a fact. Now, whatever the studies say, if it prevents injury or not, and whatever you believe, it does indeed have an impact on how you will perform while you're performing whatever physical activity or exercise. So just remember that stretching is beneficial to your performance before and after a workout. Now I'd like to touch a little bit more in regards to the benefits that stretching can have on you. I'm sure that many of you felt this. You did a very rigorous workout, and for whatever reason, after that workout, you're sore. And a lot of that has to go into a few different things, and one being that perhaps you did not stretch. And sometimes, depending on you stretching before or after, that really does impact your overall feeling and how tense your muscles are. Another benefit, and I touched on this slightly earlier, the range of motion of your muscles. So I cannot stress this enough. When you're stretching, and let's say you're unfamiliar with a motion or a position in regards to how that exercise should correctly be performed, I'd say that if you can practice a dynamic stretch prior to that exercise, it'll only help you in the long run. So just make sure that you can really be practical in knowing how that can affect your performance. Another benefit too is that circulation can also be improved. When circulation is improved, your blood vessels and also oxygen can move easily throughout your body that can also reach your muscles. Another important factor too is that when you do practice flexibility, your muscles do indeed become more flexible. And some people are more flexible than others, but if you're able to practice a motion from, let's say, dynamic stretching, and you perform that exercise on a regular basis or frequently, then what happens is you're actually proning yourself to less stress, less tension when you do stretch. So just remember that. That's something that really can impact how you feel overall after and before workouts. Those muscles can be very tense, and stretching calms that. It eases the muscle, it makes it more loose, and that's only beneficial to how you feel in the long run. You're going to want to come back after that when you're not so sore. And I can only vouch for people out there who deadlift, for an example. When you can stretch on a regular basis before or after a workout, that's only going to help with that soreness in regards to how you feel. Now, there's a lot of other things that can also help with the soreness, such as amino acids. I've spoken about that in prior videos, and you can actually see the link now to that one. From my own personal experience, I can vouch that when you stretch, it does play an important role into how your body performs and also how it feels. Something that I had to get used to was stretching before a exercise such as a bench press. I'll be the first one to tell you that when I did not stretch correctly before or after a bench press, what tends to happen is that my shoulders really do get very tense, and I can feel that literally for days after I work out and I perform that exercise. And the only reasoning why is because when you are performing a bench press, a flat bench press, what happens is you're pushing, right? And when you're pushing, what are you pushing? What are the muscles that you're using, right? A lot of that goes into your delts and your shoulders. So when you're pushing, that muscle that you can actually see right here at the top, that really impacts your overall motion. So if you can loosen that slightly before a workout, and also you can practice the planes of motion before then, I would say that that can be very beneficial to your overall performance and also how you feel afterwards. One thing that I also want to talk about too is that some people can actually not benefit from stretching because what happens is they're performing the incorrect stretch at the incorrect time of their exercises. And that goes back to some of the topics that I mentioned earlier. You have a time of when you're supposed to do these specific type of stretches, if it's before or after your exercise. Some of these stretches are only beneficial to you at its maximum if you're doing it correctly. Something that you also want to keep in mind is overstretching, and I'll use static stretching as an example. In regards to using your full range of muscle in motion, what happens is that can be overstretched, where you're extending your muscle range too far, and that can actually hurt you in the long run. So that's something that you want to be careful about. Another controversial topic that I'd like to talk about in between sets. Personally, this is something that I do, but it does depend on the exercise. For an example, when I squat, I tend to stretch in between those sets. I don't overdo it, but I do stretch. One of the main reasons why I do perform stretching in between sets is not necessarily because of strength or muscle growth. It's because I see or feel a direct impact on my performance while performing that exercise. The old methodology and what research or studies have suggested is that stretching in between sets has no real beneficial impact to your actual muscles. Now, overall, I would say that I don't feel any benefit in regards to the growth or the strength of my muscles when I am stretching in between sets. And if it did, I see no real impact. But as I mentioned before, I feel as if when I rest and I do stretch in between those sets, that my performance in being able to get through that rigorous exercise, such as the squat when I'm lifting heavy, I do see the benefit there. Guys, as always, I really do appreciate you for tuning into this channel. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure that you leave a comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Thanks.